Well, I gave him a D, and I did it solely because he answered Oprah's question. Any seasoned politician would say, far be it for me to grade myself. The American people will render judgment. And I think that's, I'm only half kidding. I think there's a level of political ineptitude I did not expect. I never, like George, expected him to do my bidding. I don't agree with his policies. But from day one, from the first piece of legislation, the stimulus, he has shown much less cleverness than his campaign showed in 2008. Letting the Congress write that legislation was a rookie mistake, and that's been followed by a series of rookie mistakes. So leaving aside my policy differences, that has been stunning. A. B, I think the level of cynicism, at least for me, totally unexpected. The carve-out that unions got in the negotiation over the health bill on paying the tax on their so-called Cadillac plans, so over the top. I wouldn't expect that from Bill Clinton, actually. So I give it D, and I'm done. This is denial, okay? This race is not about Martha Coakley. Sure, she's a bad candidate. John Kerry keeps getting reelected from Massachusetts, so that's no barrier to getting elected in that state. It's not about Martha Coakley. It's about the president's policies. His health care plan is polling at 36 in Massachusetts right now. Nationally, it's polling at 44. It's lower in the most liberal state in the country, partly because they already have a species of it under Romney care. The point is, this is a referendum, and it's explicit if you watch what Scott Brown is saying on the stump. It's an explicit referendum on Obama's policies, economic policies more broadly, and health policy more specifically. That's all it's about. And Democrats need to figure that out and respond to it, or they're really going to get creamed in the midterms.
It's largely health care, but there's something else involved. Between Christmas and New Year's, the Scott Brown campaign took off with an ad by Jack Kennedy saying cutting taxes is good for the economy and good for Democrats and good for Republicans. But on health care, Scott Brown says, this is a referendum on the president's signature issue. Elect me and I will be the 41st vote to stop this thing. The fact that the president is flying to Massachusetts indicates this is A, a referendum on him, and B, he's already lost the referendum. Because he has to go up and try.
But the
tax cuts, when did tax cuts create jobs?
But may I just state the obvious facts, and that is that Democrats have a 60-seat majority in the United States Senate. They have an overwhelming majority in the House. They can do whatever they want. The debate is not between Republicans and Democrats. It's within the Democratic caucus.
But the House is different because the rules in the House are different.
Okay, but let's just be real. They run everything. That's not a criticism. It's an observation of fact.
I want to defend Donna's friends here because they have an insuperable problem. They're trying to pass a bill that is A, huge, B, radical, C, unpopular, and therefore D, they have no choice but to resort to serial corruption. Beginning with the carve-out for Medicare Advantage people primarily in Florida, followed by the $300 million bribe to get Senator Landrieu's vote in Louisiana, followed by the $1 billion over a decade purchase of Senator Nelson's vote from Nebraska, followed by the payoff to the unions, which is the least they could get, considering that they have given $400 million to Democrats. The industry was last seen in this town rallying around a special fundraiser for Mrs. Coakley in Massachusetts.
First of all, I wish that these negotiations, healthcare negotiations, would be on C-SPAN. The idea that this bill is radical is laughable. The deal, though, that Labor got is good for all middle-class Americans who have been shafted in these last 8 years under Bush and Cheney.
Who are not in unions.
No, it cuts across. And, you know, the clean, simple thing, George, which would raise your hair on end, is if there had been a surcharge on the wealthy. I believe the wealthy in this country could afford to pay a little more. And it shouldn't be a burden on the middle class. And these are not Cadillac benefits. Let's not use that term. These are Chevy, if that. There are a lot of benefits.
You get the boldness award for defending the indefensible. I think there are many parts of this bill you could defend as someone who agrees with the ideological aims of the bill. But to defend the carve-out for Obama campaign contributors, these unions, is a pretty bold thing to do. And I'm impressed.
I admire